So the other day I did a video about how if I lived 4 miles in one direction, going outside at 8:35 at night would be illegal. Well, I just found out I've been doing something illegal for years now and had no idea. So what am I talking about? Well, I just read a court ruling recently that an influencer was fighting in court about getting fined in a national park because they filmed and they didn't get a permit. Now, let's go quickly understand the law that was in place. They put a law in place in national parks that if you're going to do any filming for commercials and movies and anything that were, it was meant for production companies going into a park or commercials going into, Colgate is going to do a commercial in Yosemite Park, or Niagara Falls, they're going to go into that area and they're going to film somebody going over the falls for a movie. It was meant for those kind of productions. You have to get a permit. You have to tell us what you're going to do. Is there going to be pyrotechnics? Are you going to explode anything? Is there going to be a car crash? What's the possible damage? And then the Parks Commission would say, okay, how many crew members are coming? How many people's going to be on set? Okay, here's what your costs are going to be for the permits and everything. And then you're going to have to pay for this security guard and this service person to make sure everything's running smoothly. That's what that law was for. But recently, YouTubers and other influencers, like on Instagram and things like that, started getting calls and messages saying to contact the forestry, Parks and Recreation, and they were told that you were filming in the national park without a permit, and they were given a $1,000 fine. Now, here's the thing. The average YouTuber who is going around might make $10 from a video that they filmed in a national park. Might make $10 in ad revenue. The average person. Or an Instagram model might make $2.85 from a picture that she took just traveling around. Some very popular YouTubers out there who travel around in vans and do a lot of travel vlogs. Cara and Nate, they actually received a call and were told that, if they don't call back right away, a warrant could be issued for their arrest. And they were told that they didn't get a permit for filming in there, and they were given a $1,000 fine. And then they said, okay, well, I guess we're not going to film in any national parks anymore, which is kind of, they travel around in a van that people want to see different places. That's why people watch them on YouTube, and they weren't going to be able to go. And then another YouTuber also got this fine, and they actually brought it to court. Now, that fine, when the person said, okay, I'm not going to pay it, I'm going to take you to court. Parks and Recreation went and said, you know what? Okay, we're going to forgive you this time. And so they issued to the court saying that we shouldn't have this hearing because we rescinded the ticket. It's not really a ticket anymore. It doesn't matter. And the YouTuber then came up and said, no, I'm planning to go back and do this again in the future. So this isn't going to be a one-time thing. I face fines again in the future, and I want this to go to court. And the court agreed. And the reason Parks and Recreation didn't want this to go forward is because they knew they didn't have a leg to stand on. They knew that any reasonable judge would say that a person walking into this is what I film with when I'm doing my vlogs live when I'm traveling around. I'm using my phone. I have a small little stabilizer like this, and I walk around, and that's what I'm filming with. Most people film with a small DSLR camera. There's no production company, there's no lighting systems, there's no anything for an influencer. It's a person with a camera and maybe the person they're taking the picture of or the video of. So it's not a production crew, it is not. And this law was intended for production crews. They didn't want just anybody coming in and setting off pyrotechnics on public land and conservation land. You have to get a permit for that. But as far as going into a national park and taking a picture beside a waterfall or taking a video of somebody walking through the grass, what? And the law was written in such a way that it stated that if you produce anything and put it out there in social media or production, and you have any sort of following. Now, any sort of following is very random. Does that mean you have 50 followers on Facebook who might see your picture? Is that considered being an influencer and maybe subject to a $1,000 fine? By the way, these permits, just to apply for it, cost you $300, and if you're turned down for it, you don't get that money back. And then if you do get it, it costs you $150 a day that you're in that national park that you want to film in. Now, if you're like me, you're traveling around and you're going someplace and you go, oh, look at that, that's beautiful, and you whip out your camera and you film. You're not planning it. It's not okay, we're going to this particular point today because we're going to shoot this particular shot and we're going to arrange this and we're going to make money on. That's not how things work for most people who work in this kind of industry, especially people trying to start off in YouTube or Facebook or anything like that, TikTok. They're not making millions of dollars. There are people out there on different channels who have 10, 20, 30 million followers on their channel. They're more of a production company quite often, but even them, a lot of them are just them and their camera, and that's it. And so the court just said, yeah, no, this is not a law aimed at small influencers or YouTubers or Facebook or anybody, and only only cases for actual crews, actual, film crews, commercial crews, somebody like an advertising agency going in or somebody setting up with professional models. This only applies to them. And anybody out there who would have fought this law in the court would most likely have won because there is no difference from somebody walking into a national park just to visit, taking out, have you seen the cameras people like to take on their pictures? They're 10 times larger and bigger than anything I own. There's a lens out there. I see people with these giant telephoto lenses that stick out this far from the camera, and I'm walking around with this. But because I would post it on a YouTube channel, I'm subject to a $1,000 fine, and the person walking around with the huge camera, see, there's no difference. You're not interfering with nature. You're not doing anything. You're not causing any extra complications to the park. And the Parks and Recreation, they're not police, right? If you're going to give one person a fine, and the only reason that one YouTube channel got it is because somebody recognized them because they're very popular and said, hey, those people are YouTubers. And somebody said, hey, they didn't get a permit. We need to have a stick up our butt and fine them. If you're going to fine them, you have to show probable cause that you're checking every single person who's taking pictures and videos in your national park, that they're not making any money from it, if that's your rule. And they don't do that. The only reason they found these people is because they're so popular that they got noticed. And that's it. And you cannot base a law around being noticed. So I'm glad that struck, because guess what? I've been breaking this law for years.